So this is the Hitscan Hyperlight. It is a $90 39 gram competitive FPS gaming mouse. I've been using mine for about a week now, and I got it specifically just to kind of try out the shape, but I also wanted to make a video for you guys just to see if the hype is real about this thing. It's one of the most hyped mice in this hobby right now. So starting with the review, I think the most hyped feature about this mouse is the shape, which this is my first foray into the VIPER Mini sort of lineage here. We have a very center focused hump here, and the only difference between this mouse and the actual VIPER Mini apparently is that the clicks sit a little bit lower, but ultimately this is a relatively small shape, kind of like on the medium low end of the spectrum, and I love it. I think this is actually one of my favorite shapes. This is top 5 for sure, maybe even top 3. I'm gonna have to use it a little bit more, but I really do like the shape. This sort of mid hump, center hump shape is really good. It is a smaller mouse, but it's not too small by any means. It is a little bit on the shorter side, I would say, but again, it's not too short at all. And, you know, I would say it is a little bit more wide than what I'm used to, the OP1 8K being a very narrow mouse, and I do prefer that. I feel like it gives me a little bit more control. However, I still feel like I get an insane amount of control with this mouse, as you can see from the gameplay, because I'm just him.
Too easy, boys!
Was it easy, or did you get 81 kills dropped on your forehead? I'm confused. Were we just playing the same game, or...?
That's weird aim, but that's a mouse.
Like, what the fuck was that shit?
Those are
Shot
aimbots.
the fucking ground.
Yeah,
That's normal.
yeah, it's an aimbot, buddy.
Shooting the
It
ground.
just look.
I definitely see what all the hype is about with this VIPER Mini shape. I see why this thing is so sought after. Moving on to the second, I guess, feature that this mouse is hyped for, the weight. Comes in at 39 grams. It's not as light as the Crazy Light, but it's still lighter than the Super Light. Please, can we stop with the naming scheme here? We have the Crazy Light, the Super Light, the Hyper Light. What's next? The Uber Light? Oh my god, I just gave somebody a fucking idea, I swear to god. Jokes aside, the 4 gram difference between the Crazy Light and the Hyper Light is not noticeable at all. I mean, maybe this mouse is a little bit more back heavy, but I honestly can't tell. We're splitting hairs here, and again, I would put these two at the same weight. If you blindfolded me, I could not tell the difference. Once you get to this low of weight anyway, it's like you're not even using a mouse, so I don't really think it matters where it's balanced. I really do like the weight. Obviously, lighter weight mice are always really nice. I know I saw some talk about that in the comments of the Crazy Light video. You can think about it like lighter weight cars. You would have a lighter weight car, so it has less inertia going into turns. It's the same concept when moving the mouse around and flicking really fast when you're playing a game. You just have less inertia to fight back with. At this weight, there is almost zero noticeable inertia, and that's what's so nice. Science lesson over. Let's move on to the sort of nitpicky neutral points I have with this mouse. And first is going to be the clicks. I would personally say the clicks aren't bad, and again, I don't like optical switches that much. These aren't bad. They're not as good as the ones in the Pulsar X2 CL, but they aren't terrible. I would use them no problem. They aren't winning any awards for me, but hey, I'm not going to complain too bad about them. Second is these side buttons. They do have a bit of post travel. It's not something that bothers me at all, but I know people who are super picky about their side buttons. I don't think you're going to hate these, but you won't really, it's not going to be your favorite, that's for sure. Last nitpick is going to be the feet. They come uninstalled out of the box, so you have to install them yourself. For me, I was actually tempted to include that as a pro because I use dot skates on all my mice, so that's kind of just saving me the time. I don't have to skate swap them. However, I did just decide to put on the stock feet just to test those. And yeah, if you don't want to install feet, it is a little bit annoying that you have to do that yourself. Moving on to the last thing, which is a genuine con, the only big one that I can think of with this mouse. The battery is dog shit. It's super small at 250 milliamp hours. I used this mouse for about a week and I had to charge it maybe twice, but charging this mouse 2 times in 1 week is quite bad, especially at 1 kilohertz polling rate. If you got the 8 kilohertz dongle, which we'll talk about a little bit later, you're charging this thing probably after every other sesh. You're charging it really often, man. It is quite bad. But I think this mouse strives to be the VIPER Mini that Razer never made. And as such, they did a great job. The shape is amazing. Anyone who wants to buy that VIPER Mini Signature Edition, buy this instead. Pretty much everything about it is better, except the battery, but it is also not $300. So this is an insane value, and I highly recommend people check it out. One thing I wanted to do before I ended the video, though, is compare the X2 Crazy Light to the Hitscan Hyperlight. And it's honestly kind of tough. The X2 CL does have those pulsar internals that make the mouse perform a little bit better. The switches are nicer, and most importantly with dot skates, the mouse is lighter at 35 grams rather than 39. Like I said, that weight isn't really noticeable. The internals being better, again, is not going to be something that's very noticeable. The switches are noticeably better, but it's not that big of a deal, and the shape benefit of the Hyperlight is much better in my opinion, and I think the value is much better because let's talk about the 8 kilohertz dongle for the Hitscan Hyperlight. If you get that, I think the dongle costs about $25. That brings the total gap from $30 between the Hitscan Hyperlight to the X2CL to about $15 to $10. So that gap really does close when you get the 8 kilohertz dongle. However, I really like that Hitscan allows you to choose, especially because the batteries in these mice are so bad that I personally wouldn't use 8 kilohertz anyway. I feel like the benefit of 8 kilohertz is so minuscule compared to the lost battery life. With the X2 here, you don't really get the choice, and I feel like, I'm buying something that I'm not even really using. So yeah, if you gave me the option, I would definitely just go with the 1 kilohertz option. And Hitscan is the only one that gives you the option there, so I feel like the value is a little bit better there. And speaking of battery life, the battery life on the X2CL is worse. It's not by much, but it is definitely worse. The battery life being about 200 milliamp hours rather than 250. If I had to pick, I would probably pick the Hitscan Hyperlight. I think the shape here is much better. The X2 shape is a little awkward for me. The hump is way lower back, which just does not feel as good to me, and it is wider. So I think I'd rather go with the Hitscan Hyperlight. Again, the internals and the weight is worse, but it's not going to be noticeable. I guarantee you that if you blindfolded yourself, you would never notice the difference. The shape really does make up for it. So I think the Hyperlight is actually the better recommend there for me personally, if you're looking for a Hyperlight mouse below 40 grams and you claw grip. And if you were a big fan of the VIPER Mini, you probably already own this thing. But if you were skeptical about getting this thing for whatever reason, I definitely recommend it.